Hey, is it Jeff or
Yes.
Jeff? Good morning, Jeff. Good morning, Susan. So I'm just gonna kind of get started here. It's 10:02. Welcome if you are new here. We are so grateful to have you here for our Sunday service. Just a reminder to everybody to mute your mic when you're not talking. Good morning, Scotty. We're just going to give a few more minutes for others to join the call. Typically, we have people joining till 10 after. So now's a good time to grab your journal if you would like to participate in our journaling portion of the service. If you're new, a little rundown of our service. We do 2 readings, always a chapter from the Tao Te Ching. And we are wrapping up The Science of Being Great by Wallace Wattles. So we'll do a reading from that book. We also have a meditation and then a journaling portion. And then Eric will be leading group discussion after the service. So the service is about 30 minutes. And then group discussion goes on until noon Eastern, so about an hour and a half. A little bit about Psanctuary. If you're not familiar, we're a 508c1a faith-based organization. And we do not participate in communing with the sacrament during our Sunday services, but that is what unites us all here at Psanctuary, is the practice with psilocybin mushrooms and connecting to divinity with the mushroom. So again, welcome if you are new. I'm going to give us a couple more minutes here to settle in. Also a reminder that we run on donations here at Psanctuary. So if you are able to donate, please consider doing so. You can do that through our website. We also are very happy to consider in-kind donations. So if you have any ideas about what kind of in-kind donations you could offer, please do let us know. So with that being said, I'm going to pass things on to Athena, and I do hope everyone can stay for group discussion. If not, have an awesome Sunday and a great week.
Thanks, Courtney. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining our Sanctuary community in celebration this Sunday. As we begin our statement of faith, we recognize that this statement does not exhaust the full extent of our faith. We believe that sacred mushrooms are the primary source of personal and divine revelation. We seek counsel from the mushroom to find direction and inspiration in our faith practice. And we believe that all individuals who seek true revelation from divinity can do so. My music is not working today, but we will begin our silent meditation that the universe has provided. We begin each of our services with taking the time to settle into the space, thinking about our intentions, what brought you here today. So I invite you to take a deep breath with me. And we'll begin that silent settling in now. All right, and I invite you to take another deep breath. Exhale. Again, that was really challenging for me, having the quiet with us this morning. So thank you for joining me in that. And I will pass it along to Rushian for our first reading.
All right. Good morning, Grand Rising, blessed morning to all. All right, I'm going to be reading from the chapter 22 of the Science of Being Great. 22. All right. All people are made of the one intelligent substance, and therefore all contain the same essential powers and possibilities. Greatness is equally inherent in all and may be manifested by all. Every person may become great. Every constituent of God is a constituent of people. A person may overcome both hereditary and circumstances by exercising the inherent creative power of the soul. If they are to become great, the soul must act and must rule the mind and the body. Wow. A person's knowledge is limited, and they fall into error through ignorance. To avoid this, they must connect their soul with universal spirit. Universal spirit is the intelligent substance from which all things come. It is in and through all things. Whew. All things are known to this universal mind, and a person can so unite themselves with it as to enter into all knowledge. To do this, a person must cast out of themselves everything that separates them from God. They must will to live the divine life, and they must rise above all moral temptations. They must forsake every course of action that is not in accord with their highest ideals. They must reach the right viewpoint, recognizing that God is all in all and that there is nothing wrong. They must see the nature, society, government, and industry are perfect in their present stage and advancing toward completion, and that all men and women everywhere are good and perfect. They must know that all is right with the world and unite with God for the completion of the perfect work. Next slide, please. Thanks. It is only as a person sees God as the great advancing presence in all and good in all that they can rise to real greatness. They must consecrate themselves to the service of the highest that is within themselves, obeying the voice of the soul. There is an inner light in every person that continuously impels them towards the highest, and they must be guided by this light if they would become great. They must recognize the fact that they are one with the Creator and consciously affirm this unity for themselves and for all others. They must know themselves to be a God among gods and act accordingly. They must have absolute faith in their own perceptions of truth and begin at home to act upon these perceptions. As they see the true and right course in small things, they must take that course. They must cease to act unthinkingly and begin to think. And they must be sincere in their thought. They must form a mental conception of themselves at the highest and hold this conception until it is their habitual thought form of themselves. This thought form they must keep continuously in view. They must outwardly realize and express that thought form in their actions. They must do everything that they do in a great way in dealing with their family, their neighbors, acquaintances, and friends. They must make oh wow, I don't know why am I so emotional about this. They must make every act an expression of their ideal. Next slide, please. Thanks. The person who reaches the right viewpoint and makes full consecration, and who fully idealizes themselves as great, and who makes every act, however trivial, an expression of the ideal, has already attained to greatness. Everything they do will be done in a great way. They will make themselves known and will be recognized as a personality of power. They will receive knowledge by inspiration and will know all that they need to know. They will receive all the material wealth they form in their thoughts and will not lack for any good thing. They will be given ability to deal with any combination of circumstances that may arise, and their growth and progress will be continuous and rapid. Great works will seek them out, and all people will delight to do them honor. Because of its peculiar value to the student of the science of being great, I close this book by giving a portion of Emerson's essay on the Oversoul. This great essay is fundamental, showing the foundational principles of monism and the science of greatness. I recommend the student to study it most carefully in connection with this book. What is the universal sense of want and ignorance but the fine innuendo by which the great soul makes its enormous claim? Why do men feel that the natural history of man has never been written, but always he is leaving behind what you have said of him, and it becomes old and books of metaphysics worthless? The philosophy of 6,000 years has not searched the chambers and magazines of the soul. In its experiments, there has always remained, in the last analysis, a residuum it could not resolve. Man is a stream whose source is hidden. Always our being is descending into us from we know not whence. The most exact calculator has no prescience. What's this? Prescience? Prescience? Oh, prescience. The most exact calculator has no prescience that somewhat incalculable may not bark the very next moment. I am constrained every moment to knowledge a higher origin for events than the will I call mine. May I read that sentence again, please? I am constrained every moment to knowledge a higher origin for events than the will I call mine. Just one more time, please. I am constrained every moment to knowledge a higher origin for events than the will I call mine. As with events, so it is with thoughts. When I watch that flowing river, which out of origins I see not, pours for a season its streams into me, I see that I am a pensioner, not a cause, but a surprised spectator of this ethereal water, that I desire and look up and put myself in the attitude for reception, but from some alien energy the visions come. The supreme critic on all the errors of the past and present, and the only prophet of that which must be, is that great nature in which we rest as the earth lies in the soft arms of the atmosphere. That unity, that oversoul, with which every man's particular being is contained and made one with all other, that common heart of which all sincere conversation is the worship, to which all right action is submission, that overpouring reality which confutes our tricks and talents and constrains everyone to pass for what he is and to speak from his character, not from his tongue, and which evermore tends and aims to pass into our thought and hand and become wisdom and virtue and power and beauty. We live in succession, in division, in parts, in particles. Meantime, within man is the soul of the whole, the wise silence, the universal beauty, to which every part and particle is equally related, the eternal one. And this deep power in which we exist and whose, what's this, beatitude is all accessible to us, is not only self-sufficing and perfect in every hour, but the act of seeing and the act and the thing, well, but the act of seeing and the thing seen, the seer and the spectacle, the subject and the object are one. Beautiful. We see the world piece by piece as the sun, the moon, the animal, the tree, but the whole of which these are the shining parts is the soul. It is only by the vision of that wisdom that the horoscope of the ages can be read. And it is only by falling back on our better thoughts, by yielding to the spirit of prophecy, which is innate in every man, that we know what is saith. Every man's words who speaks from that life must sound vain to those who do not dwell in the same thought on their own part. I dare not speak for it. I dare not speak for it. I dare not speak for it. My words do not carry its august sense. They fall short and cold. Only itself can inspire whom it will, and behold, their speech shall he lyrical and sweet, and universal as the rising of the wind. Yet I desire, even by profane words, if sacred I may not use, to indicate the heaven of its deity, and to report what hints I have collected of the transcendent simplicity and energy of the highest law. If we consider what happens in conversation, in reveries, in remorse, in times of passion, in surprises, in the instruction of dreams, wherein often we see ourselves in masquerade, the droll disguises only magnifying and enhancing a real element and forcing it on our distinct notice, we shall catch many hints that will broaden and lighten into knowledge of the secret of nature. All goes to show that the soul in man is not an organ, but animates and exercises all the organs, is not a function like the power of memory, of calculation, of compromise, but uses these hands and feet, is not a faculty, but a light, not the intellect or the will, but the master of the intellect and the will. I'm sorry, but is someone's mic unmuted?
Hey, Luke, I think your mic is unmuted. If you could mute it.
All right, give thanks. All goes to show that the soul in man is not an organ, but animates and exercises all the organs, is not a function like the power of memory, of calculation, of compromise, but uses these hands and feet, is not a faculty, but a light, is not the intellect or the will, but the master of the intellect and the will, is the vast background of our being in which they lie, and immensity not possessed and that cannot be possessed. From within or from behind, a light shines through us upon things and makes us aware that we are nothing, and makes us aware that we are nothing, and makes us aware that we are nothing, but the light is all. A man is the facade of a temple wherein all wisdom and all good abide. What we commonly call man, the eating, drinking, planting, counting man, does not, as we know him, represent himself, but misrepresents himself. Him we do not respect, but the soul, whose organ he is, would he let it appear through his action, would make our knees bend. When it breathes through his intellect, it is genius. When it flows through his affection, it is love. After its own law and not by arithmetic is the rate of its progress to be computed. The soul's advances are not made by gradation or gradation, however you want to pronounce it, such as can be represented by motion in a straight line, but rather by ascension of state, such as can be represented by metamorphosis, from the egg to the worm, from the worm to the fly. The growths of genius are of a certain total character that does not advance the elect individual first over John, then Adam, then Richard, and give to each the pain of discovered inferiority. But by every throe of growth, the man expands there where he works, passing at each pulsation classes, populations of men. With each divine impulse, the mind rends the thin rinds of the visible and infinite. Sorry. The rinds of the visible and finite, and comes out into eternity and inspires and expires its air. This is the law of moral and of mental gain. The simple rise as by specific levity, not into a particular virtue, but into the region of all the virtues. They are in the spirit that contains them all. The soul is superior to all the particles or the particulars of merit. The soul requires purity, but purity is not it. Requires justice, but justice is not that. Requires beneficence, but is somewhat better. So that there is a kind of dissent and accommodation felt when we leave speaking of a moral nature, the urge or to urge a virtue when it enjoins. For to the soul in her pure action, all the virtues are natural and not painfully acquired. Speak to his heart, and the man becomes suddenly virtuous. Within the same sentiment is the germ of intellectual growth, which obeys the same law. Those who are capable of humility, of justice, of love, of aspiration are already on a platform that commands the sciences and arts, speech and poetry, action and grace. For whoso dwells in this moral beatitude, if I'm pronouncing it right, does already anticipate those special powers which men prize so highly, just as love does justice to all the gifts of the object beloved. The lover has no talent, no skill, which passes for quite nothing with his enamored maiden, however little she may possess of related faculty. And the heart that abandons itself to the supreme mind finds itself related to all its works and will travel a royal road to particular knowledge and powers. For in ascending to this primary and aboriginal sentiment, we have come from our remote station on the circumference instantaneously to the center of the world, where, as in the closet of God, we see causes and anticipate the universe, which is but a slow effect. That's the end of the reading. Give thanks. Love and light, everyone.
Thank you, Rushian. That was a beast of a chapter. So well done.
Give thanks. Give thanks.
Mhm. Okay, everyone. So this is a litany of gratitude, a poem that we read every Sunday. I invite you at this time, if you would like to unmute your mic and join me when I read the verse, we live in all things live in us. So I'll give you a moment to unmute if you would like to. We live by the sun, we feel by the moon, we move by the stars. We live in all
things.
all
All
things
things live in us.
We eat from the earth, we drink from the rain, we breathe of the air. We live in all
things.
All
All
things
things live in us.
Call to each other, we listen to each other. Our hearts deepen with love and compassion. We live in all
things.
all
All
things.
things live in us.
We depend on the trees and the animals. We depend on the earth. Our minds open with wisdom and insight. We live
We
in
live in
all
all things.
all
All
things.
things live in us.
We dedicate our practice to others. We include all forms of life. We celebrate the joy of living and dying. We live in
We live in
all
all things.
all
All
things.
things live in us.
We are full of life. We are full of death. We are grateful for all beings and companions. All right, you can mute now. Thank you.
Good morning. Bend and you will be whole. Curl and you'll be straight. Keep empty and you will be filled. Grow old and you'll be renewed. Have little and you will gain. Have much and you'll be confused. Therefore the sage embraces the one and becomes a pattern to all under heaven. He does not show of himself, hence he shines. Does not justify himself, hence he becomes known. Does not boast his ability, hence he gets his credit. Does not brandish his success, hence he endures. Does not compete with anyone, hence no one can compete with him. Indeed, the ancient saying, bend and you will remain whole, is no idle word. Nay, if you've really attained wholeness, everything will flock to you. Beautiful.
All right. Thank you all for reading today, and we will take a moment to reflect, just a few minutes today, and we have some prompts for you if you've got that journal nearby, or if you'd like to just take a moment to yourself. How can these readings be viewed through the lens of the sacred mushroom? Or how can these readings be applied to everyday life? And we'll just take a few minutes today to think on that. All right. And if you'd like to finish up your thoughts, come back to the space. And we will close out our service portion for today, recognizing we've come together with intentions of service to the land and all its inhabitants. It is in our hearts to go forth into the world with the collective consciousness. We encourage everyone to stay for continued fellowship and conversation around our readings today. And for those unable to stay, we thank you for being with us. I will now stop our recording